So we all remember about the Robert E. Lee statue taken down in North Carolina. Anyway, so I was up last night uploading the solar eclipse video, but then I found this video talking about Tucker Carlson talking about the statues, but then in the middle of it, he talks about the fact that in southern Chicago, some people have burnt down an Abraham Lincoln statue. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln, the guy who freed the slaves. Okay, I don't understand what's with the left, but anyway, we're gonna play this whole clip. It's gonna be 2 minutes because other than this, the burning of the statue, he has some points to talk about how the liberal left has been lately, other than mocking Trump by looking at the solar eclipse without glasses for a second. Despite the fact that he didn't get blind and he looked at it mostly with his glasses. So, I'm going to play you the clip again. It'll be over 2 minutes because he has some points to talk about.
All this week, we've noted that recent attacks on Confederate statues aren't entirely about statues or even about the Confederacy. Instead, they're an effort to abolish the past and to declare it morally worthless and unworthy of respect. The left, we predicted, wouldn't stop with Robert E. Lee or Stonewall Jackson, but would move on to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Teddy Roosevelt, and more. Twitter called us ridiculous. Well, it took less than 48 hours for reality to catch up to worst-case scenario. In case you weren't watching CNN today, here's what you missed. Keep in mind that Angela Rye, the woman speaking, is not just a CNN contributor. She was the executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus. She's hardly a fringe figure in the Democratic Party. Watch.
George Washington was a slave owner, and we need to call slave owners out for what they are. Whether we think they were protecting American freedom or not, he wasn't protecting my freedom. I wasn't someone who my ancestors weren't deemed human beings to him. And so to me, I don't care if it's a George Washington statue or a Thomas Jefferson statue or a Robert E. Lee statue. They all need to come down.
Well, Al Sharpton agreed that the man who wrote the Declaration of Independence should lose his memorial.
When you look at the fact that public monuments are supported by public funds, you're asking me to subsidize the insult of my family.
Thomas Jefferson had slaves.
And I would repeat that the public should not be paying to uphold somebody who has had that kind of background.
Oh, but don't think it'll end with the Jefferson Memorial or the Washington Monument. Revolutions aren't like that. Once they gather steam, they tend to go further than anyone expected, as Robespierre found out the hard way. Yesterday in Chicago's South Side, for example, a vandal set fire to another Civil War-era monument, this one to Abraham Lincoln. Yes, that Abraham Lincoln, the one who freed the slaves. By the standards of the modern left, Lincoln is a racist too. He was willing to pardon the Confederates, for one thing, after killing hundreds of thousands of them. There's no way Abraham Lincoln could work at Google. He'd be hauled into HR and canned on day one. So you can see why liberals felt it was important to burn his likeness. You know where this is going. After sending all the statues to the landfill, it'll be time to rip up our founding documents. If Jefferson is so wicked he doesn't deserve a monument on the Mall, why should we honor the Declaration he wrote? If Madison is evil, why would we adhere to the Constitution? Lincoln spoke in favor of malice toward none and charity toward all, but if he's just some dead white racist, why would we even bother remembering that speech? The truth is, there's not a single person we've given a national holiday to who could withstand this level of moral scrutiny, not one. But we knew that when we decided to honor them. Countries, like people, are works in progress. They don't just exist in the present. Their stability derives from shared traditions and ideals, for respect from what came before. Nihilists don't care about any of that. They want to hit the reset button. They want to declare everything before themselves null and void so they can restart society from the ground up. That's been tried before repeatedly, and it has never once worked.
So the left is willing to erase all types of history. So they're going to take down Robert E. Lee and George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, because those guys were pro-slavery. Well, even though despite the fact that Thomas Jefferson at one point stopped the Atlantic slave trade coming into the U.S. So Jefferson, I don't think, was all pro-slavery. But, they just ignored that because of the fact that Jefferson owned slaves, they should take it down. And yes, it's bad that they owned it, but that was a long time ago. So, remember the Chicago kidnapping when people were like, oh, this white guy needs to be beaten because my ancestors were slaves. You know, not my ancestors, I'm white, but the black people's ancestors. Okay, so they're still going on with the whole slavery bullcrap, even though that was, again, over 200 years ago. So, okay, they also ignore the fact that Thomas Jefferson and George Washington were two of the founding fathers, as in they fought a war to become a country. They wrote the Declaration of Independence, and they wrote the Constitution, which makes us a successful government to this day. But they ignore the fact that those guys owned slaves, so just punish them, you know. Just forget about the fact that they went on to make the greatest country. Well, at least it at least went on to become the greatest country with the biggest economy, not socialist. And we have the strongest military, and we have all kinds of wonderful stuff, such as the technology. Like right now, I'm using technology to record this video for you guys. So, you know, they just adapted capitalism. But, you know, again. And, again, at first I thought, when they took down the Robert E. Lee one, surely I at first thought this was because of their anti-racist stuff. But then, since they took down Lincoln, they burned Lincoln's statue, I'm thinking that they're trying to erase every type of history that makes them look bad and is against their thoughts. That way, they can also try and brainwash the future generations to think that the libtards are the perfect people who have never done anything bad, while the conservatives are just dummies, they're racist, they're sexist, they're murderers or rapists, you know, all that bad stuff. Even though, you know, they do bullcrap like whining and complaining because they didn't get their way through the election, they rioted in the streets of Chicago. So, I just really hate how they think that just taking down statues is going to erase our history. Well, no, it ain't, because schools are going to still teach the same history, and the kids will know that the leftists, you know, the Democrats, are the ones that supported slavery, and that the Republican Party in the first place was created for the sake of freeing the slaves, and mostly to prevent slavery from spreading. They didn't think about freeing the slaves, they just wanted to stay in the South, where it was. But, you know, it eventually turns out that slavery was all gone since Lincoln got in. So yeah, that is at least my thoughts on this. And I absolutely hate how the left thinks that they should just do this, but no. That should stay out there as a reminder of our history and a lesson. That way we don't repeat the same mistake. But anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you enjoyed this, then be sure to give this a like. And if you're new to this channel, then be sure to subscribe to this channel if you want to watch all kinds of videos in one single channel. So for those who aren't libtard idiots like those guys who try to erase our history, God bless you, God bless America, and you have an excellent day.